morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea or your water. I've got both here this morning and sit back and relax, or maybe don't relax really, or just sit back because we have so much to talk about today and it's an extraordinary day. It's an extraordinary lead in to what will become an extraordinary weekend and an extraordinary time that we are all living through. And I just want to talk a second about intuition and how our intuition can sometimes be so powerful. And it happened to me this morning. Literally 3 minutes ago, I was sitting here and I thought, oh, I didn't pull the chart for the day because I always pull the chart first, but I didn't do that this morning. I got out of order. So I pull the chart because it kept niggling at me. Pull the chart. And I realized something extraordinary is happening today, and that is a T square, which a T square, as most of you who are in the astrological know, is a tense aspect pattern that occurs when two planets are opposing one another and then they each square a third part or point. And I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't going to pull this chart, but suddenly I decided last second, pull this chart, and here is what I see. And I've highlighted it in green, where you see actually there's quite a few planets over here in Pisces, and Pisces is squaring the galactic center in Sagittarius, which squares the south node in Virgo. And the nodes are each at 27 degrees, as is the galactic center right now. And we haven't talked much about the galactic center, at least not recently, right? I used to talk about it a lot, but there's been so many other things to chat about. So today I want to talk about this really quickly because it's so fascinating to me that it's happening in the midst of all of these other things. The solar eclipse coming tomorrow, Mercury's moving into the arms of Neptune at the 29th degree of Pisces, and then Neptune the next day, moving off into Aries. It seems that there's something cosmic going on here, and indeed there is. So it's a moment of soul level redirection. I don't know if you guys are feeling this. Is it just me this morning? But I really feel like there's this vibe of moving forward in some way, like we're just there at the gateway. Are you going to step through it? Are you going to have to be pushed through it? Or are you going to hold back and just say, nope, not going, right? I don't think we have that choice. I think it's either go on your own free will or it's get pushed into it and then see what happens. So what we're kind of looking at is the surrender versus structure, and also all of that in the face of this bigger cosmic truth. And let's look at the astrology pieces, the translation, if you will, of the North Node, the South Node, and the Galactic Center. So, as you know, the North Node is the soul's evolutionary direction, the where it's going piece. And right now, it's sitting at 27 degrees of Pisces. So, where we're going is toward surrender, toward spiritual trust, toward unity consciousness, and intuitive living. Right? Intuitive living. I listened, I pulled the chart, I see this extraordinary thing going on. Now, the South Node in Virgo is the past tendencies that we've had as a collective. It's what we're asked to release or what we're being asked to release. And that would be overanalysis, that would be perfectionism, that would be control or busy work or an over reliance on logic versus intuition, right? So we're asked to leave that behind. And the galactic center always is, right now, at least in the times that we live in the latter degrees of Sagittarius, the truth seeker, right? The one with the arrow pointed at the heart of the universe. And that is about 27 degrees of Sagittarius right now, which is a portal of cosmic truth and higher wisdom and galactic downloads, right? When you get I notice it because I get it, and I'm sure you guys do too, that download, right? That cosmic sort of feel. It's the collective destiny of our evolution that's being transmitted to us through the galactic center. And it's really about the destiny and evolution of human consciousness, not just you as an individual, but the soul, if you will, of humanity. So, extraordinary three pieces that are coming together. Now, remember what a T square says. A T square says your old tools won't take you where your soul is meant to go. So, let go of the spreadsheets and step into the mystery, right? The mystery of your cosmic destiny. That's the key. So, what evolutionary themes are being activated by this day with a T square pointed at the galactic center? Well, for one thing, it's the crisis of control versus surrender, right? We are creatures of habit and we are creatures that like to tightly control our environment. Some don't, but often, right? Humanity has been in a situation where we want to control. And now we're being, Virgo, the South Node, is clinging to the known and the routines, the seasons, the reasons, the rituals, the what I've always done. And the Pisces North Node is asking you to let go, to trust what you feel and open to divine timing, right? Letting go of your human need to control. And the square from both of those nodes to the galactic center adds cosmic pressure. Right now, we have the cosmic pressure to evolve or get humbled. G- Evolve or get humbled. Think about that for a minute, right? The illusion of doing it right is another point being brought up during this T square. Virgo wants the checklist, and Pisces wants to dissolve the whole system. It just wants to be free to do whatever, whenever, right? That kind of thing. But not freedom like Aries wants. It's just the etheric, right? The spirit and the way the air moves or the way the water moves. And the galactic center squaring both says truth is not found in doing or escaping. It's in your integration of both, right? You're integrating both the Virgo practicality and the Piscean uh, subconscious, right? Or unconscious. So the divine purpose, your divine purpose, our divine purpose cannot be micromanaged. It just doesn't work. So the galactic center blasts open our ideas of having a fixed purpose or offers us maybe a more galactic soul level perspective, one that isn't tight, one that isn't boundaried, one that isn't so clear cut. And this could show up in us as a loss of interest in the way things used to work, right? We're just not into it anymore. We're feeling ungrounded or like nothing makes sense, right? That's adding to this confusion or this feeling of being untethered. And it's a spontaneous surrender that brings us deeper peace within, right? Deeper peace that effort to bring peace could never bring, right? Because it's so inborn. It just, as you surrender and you let go, peace is the natural outpicturing of all of that. So, what are the collective implications here? Because this is a big deal. I can't believe I didn't see it before now. And as a collective, it could bring up crisis moments, at least initially, right? Around truth, around belief and surrender and order and perfectionism and, these things that we've kind of taken for granted. And old systems, which they're doing anyway, may falter under the weight of the higher vision when we're looking ahead at what could be in a world that's peaceful or in a world with we're surrendering the old. It can, create this, faltering feeling that I think we sometimes feel as confusion or we feel as, being unstable. We're shifting from proving truth, which is a very Virgo thing, to embodying truth, a very much more Piscean theme. And spiritual guidance systems, the ways that we use spirit, may evolve from institutional to intuitive. We're going to talk a lot more about that this morning, especially for people who are empathic or who are artists and healers, which I put us all in that category, right? We're all in that category of creative beings who are empathetic and have this feeling of compassion for our fellow human beings. And everybody has the opportunity and the gift of healing, right? Yourself, maybe, or others with a kind word, with a gesture, with literally healing hands and healing techniques. But all of us are in this category. So, questions for you in this. Um, where are you still trying to earn your worth through perfection or through over efforting, where you're just doing too much? You keep going and going, trying to prove yourself. And then ask, can I trust what I feel, even when it doesn't make sense, right? It didn't make sense for me this morning as I was sitting here thinking, am I ready for this broadcast? And I went, oh, I didn't print a chart. So I should print a chart. Intuition, following your gut. And then what truth are you being invited to live beyond logic with, right? Through deep inner knowing rather than logic. Great questions for us with the Galactic Center showering us in this case, or challenging us if you want to look at that way, because it's very much an important part of this whole solar eclipse. Mercury at the 29th degree of Pisces and Neptune moving into Aries, all boom, boom, boom this weekend, right? It's a lot. Now, I noticed this morning people were checking in a little late. I don't know if the recording starts right at the beginning for you all and if you're lagging behind me, but let me again show you what it is that I first saw this morning when I pulled the chart, literally 2 or 3 minutes before the show started. And what you see here, the opposition of this T square is between the South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces at 27 degrees, and the square of each of them to the galactic center, now placed at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. So fascinating. Okay. So let's say good morning to people who are checking in. I saw Debbie Tippett's Tumiel this morning. I saw Asa this morning and TD Hawk. Good morning. And thank you, Debbie, for that reminder. Hit the like button and hit the share button or hit the thumbs up button, whichever one you have with whatever program you're watching on. Thank you, Debbie. Tom says, good morning or hello, Astro Design family. TD Hawk, done. Thank you, Debbie or Tamara. And Debbie says, going with the flow. Susan Bronlin, oh my goodness, it's so good to see you. She says she's happy to be here. I haven't seen you in a while, so I am happy to have you here with us too. Good morning, Christine Buckingham. It's great to see you. Joan Durchie, happy Friday to you as well. And TD Hawk says, well, was greeted by a huge swan on the river this morning. Then a huge ferruginous hawk flew overhead. Many, many years since these have been seen here, like 10 to 14 years. Wow. So that is definitely a symbol, a sign, an omen. Swan, if I'm not mistaken, represents intuition. And hawk is, maybe a messenger. I'm not sure if there's something specific about that hawk, but a very, very powerful couple of symbols for you there, Tamara. Swan, very powerful, awakening the true beauty and power of the self, power in that truth and sensitivities. Woohoo! Very good. It goes right with our theme today, doesn't it? And good morning, Robin. Good to have you with us, and anybody else out there who I don't see, but I can see there are you people listening out there in the background. So today, I wanted to get into maybe some different facets of the solar eclipse and of the Neptune and Aries time period that we are going into. We've talked a bit about them. I've written about them. If you guys aren't aware, on my website, living-astrology.com, I have a blog there and I post some deeper articles on that, or at least I'm doing more and more of that now. On my website. So if you don't catch it through the email program sending it out, you can just go straight to my blog and find it there. And I've been talking a lot about the different parts of the eclipse and what does it mean to have a solar eclipse at 9 Aries with Mercury and Venus having gone retrograde right about that same degree. And what does it mean with Neptune going into Aries and all of that. But today I want to get into maybe something a little more depth oriented with these things. And I might, you know, these are all things for you to think about, right? These are all ideas and things for you to think about. So let's look at the opening context of this, or the bigger picture of what is happening. Solar eclipses are endings and beginnings. Well, eclipses in general are. A solar eclipse is often the new, right? The new beginning because it comes with a new moon. But we're still in the dark, right? The moon light is not there. We don't see it. It's so close to the sun, it gets lost in the sun's light. And it's for us, we don't quite see where it is we're going, but we know that we can set intentions to go where it is we want to go. And so the solar eclipse time is often a catalyst time for our accelerated change or for that next step. And it often brings a bit of fated or karmic energy to the surface that shifts and unfolds over the next 6 months. And 6 months because the next set of eclipses occurs 6 months from now. Um, this eclipse, the solar eclipse, is a north node eclipse. Remember back on March 14th when we had the lunar eclipse, that was a south node eclipse, right? So what was being eclipsed then was a need to release the baggage from the past, maybe to clear up the old, to, get lighter. And this eclipse, being a north node eclipse, is a push toward destiny. It's a push for us to be courageous and to engage in the evolution of consciousness that's occurring here on the planet at this time. And then if we look at Neptune in Aries, we've talked a lot about this, and it is basically a new spiritual fire that is being born right now. And Neptune changes signs every 14 to 16 years. The last time it changed signs was in 2011 as it moved out of Aquarius and into Pisces. But it's been 165 years since Neptune transitioned into Aries. So we're at the end of a rather long cycle and looking at the beginning of a brand new longer term cycle. So we're not just making the move from Pisces to Aries, we're making the move from the ending of an old cycle into the beginning of a new cycle. And of course, that happens on Sunday, the 30th. And it's the first ingress of Neptune into Aries, as he will retrograde later in the year back into Pisces. And then at the beginning of 2026, we'll move into a conjunction with Saturn again in the sign of Aries. So this is big news. And this is the first time that Neptune will have moved into Aries since the 1800s, the mid 1800s. In fact, the day after the Civil War started, right? So if you want context about how long ago that was, right? That was a long time. And here's where transcendence, i.e. Neptune, meets identity, i.e. Aries. So transcendence meets identity. And spiritual purpose then starts to take on this more bold, action oriented, pioneering kind of energy. And this is a turning point for all of us. There's nobody that will escape, if you will, this turning point. We have an eclipse, which is the ignition moment, right? The lighting of the match for this new spiritual and collective identity. And then we're shedding the old Piscean energies of escapism, of passivity, for this Aries era spiritual sovereignty and spiritual warriorship, if you will. All right. So, collective themes for this new era that begins on Sunday will be about moving from sacrifice to self realization. Pisces and Piscean energy is very much sacrificial, right? And you see it even in the themes of Christianity, which was born around the dawning of the age of Pisces, right? The lamb, the fishes, and the idea of sacrifice and the idea of martyrdom and things like that. So we're letting go of those things, right? That age is coming to a close with the dawning of the age of Aquarius, but it's also coming to a close because of the move of Neptune into Aries. So we're letting go of martyrdom. We're letting go of codependency and illusions, right? We're letting go in a real way of looking outside of ourselves for our spiritual um, lives. right? We don't need to look outside of us for God or source or spiritual identity. It's in here, right? It's within us. And in that, we're embracing then spiritual courage. We're embracing individualism. Embracing in, intuition and innovation and all kinds of really new things that will come up during this period of time. And we move from the Piscean, I believe, into Aries, I am, right? I am. That I am presence, right? That's Aries energy. And we might see in this time then the rise of the spiritual warrior, and collective yearning for authenticity and for so much truth, right? We're hungry for truth, and then action. And we may see a rise in soul-led activism, direct healing work, and visionary leadership, right? Not the same old, something new, something exciting. And new movements may arise during this time, driven by personal truth and over group conformity. Like we're tired of, being like everybody else. We want to be ourselves. And again, truth. And then it is the cleansing of old ideologies. This is what really gets me, this part, right? Where systems that have been built on illusion or fear or escapism may crumble right from underneath us. The new systems that we enact will be shaped by more direct experience, by embodied purpose, and by personal alignment with something. Neptune and Aries kind of demands integrity and what we believe and how we live being a personal inside job, not something that's dictated to you from outside of you. So, personal impact. How might all of this energy show up for you personally? Well, a lot of that depends on where Aries is in your natal astrology chart. I happen to have Aries up on my 10th house. It's where my midheaven is. So it's impacting me in career changes or in professional changes or in the way that I show up in the outer world. Let's say it's happening in your 6th house, then it may be impacting your work environment or the work you do or the way that you show up in the world to serve others or to share of your gifts and your talents. It could also show up in health and well being. So it really depends on the house in your chart and the planets that you might have in the sign of Aries. But then there's also the more general themes. And this will be a call to wake up to your own power. That is true for everybody, but it will be directed at the pie slice that is the house of your own personal placement. And you may have a sudden awareness that it's time to take the reins of your own spiritual path or your own power, taking it back. Maybe a deeper desire to align with your inner truth, with your passions, right? Your desires. And with the eclipse and Neptune, you may experience a spiritual identity shift where you may feel foggy or dreamy or uncertain at first. That's Pisces. But don't rush clarity because as Neptune gains traction in the sign of Aries, it becomes more potent, it becomes more activated, it becomes more attainable, accessible even for you. Allow the eclipse portal, the solar eclipse in Aries, to dissolve what no longer fits your soul and ask yourself, who am I becoming when I trust my intuition and act from the heart, right? Because we're acting from the heart now. Now, possible experiences for you feeling called to leave behind spiritual bypassing or people pleasing, codependencies, right? Maybe feeling a breakthrough in your purpose, creativity, or your personal leadership, releasing victimhood and reclaiming authorship over your story, right? You are the author. You are writing your story with every belief, with every action, with every word. You're writing your story. So, what will you write now? So, asking, what illusions am I ready to let go of? What no longer serves my evolution? Am I ready to be a pioneer on my own path. Not taking the path that everybody has laid out for you or that you thought you must follow, but your own personal path. So the solar eclipse sets the tone, a very Aries, fiery tone. And then Neptune in Aries carries the wave of that fire energy, of that creative energy forward. So this isn't a moment, by the way. This is not just a moment in time. This is a movement, right? This is pushing you somewhere. We're being invited to walk forward with spiritual integrity and with fierce compassion and sovereign light, like your light, sovereign, your own I am presence. That is what is being requested to join the party. And you were born for such a time as this. If you're here on this planet, this is your time. And the world doesn't need your perfection, it needs your presence. So we're looking at presence over perfection. It, it's a whole new movement, right? Okay, good morning, Colleen. And let's see, Tom. TD Hawk must have said something. Oh, she was talking about the swan and the hawk. Paulette Peasley, good morning. And it's nice to see you out there as well. If you guys have any questions or comments or personal experiences of what's happening, please share them in the chat, right? Let others know what's going on for you. Because we're all moving through something. Something's being birthed. So what is it for you, right? Share that. Now, let's look at some of the predicted themes. And this is this is a little off track, right? Because it's not specifically astrological, but what might we see with this new astrological signature on the planet? And one is the rise of spiritual or the rise of your spiritual individuality, right? The spiritual individual. This is the age of the sovereign mystic. And that comes from Neptune being, the representation of spirit, or i.e., the mystic, and Aries, this sovereign energy, the I am. So maybe you will see more people stepping away from traditional religion and group dogma to follow a personal embodied path of truth, a personal embodied spiritual path. Increase maybe in people on pilgrimages, which are, we're going to holy places or power sites on the planet. Maybe more intuitive led businesses and self initiated rites of passage, right? Not dictated from outside of you, but what feels good for you. And it is the I am the temple kind of energy, right? It's I am. Spiritual activism and soul led movements are likely to increase during this time period. And as we're moving from bystanders to brave hearts, right? Moving from just this, I'm going to stand and watch, to I'm going to get up and do. And the younger generations, especially like the Gen Z relation or generation, might become the spiritual revolutionaries for our future, right? Because they're just in their young 20s and they are disgusted with the way things have been working. They work in a completely different area of the brain than we have in the older generations, and they're ready to move. So maybe we see new waves of activism around clean energy, around healthcare reform, around AI ethics and individual rights. And all of that being more infused with compassion and rooted in fierce conviction rather than just simply the superficial. Maybe expect new leaders who operate from inner clarity rather than party politics or public approval. Sign me up, right? I'm ready for that one. And expect a new relationship with technology and consciousness, maybe tech as a tool for spiritual evolution, right? Rather than it being something that, replaces the human, something that helps us clarify our humanity. Maybe new AI integrated tools for mindfulness, dream recording, like what are my dreams and what are the meanings in my dreams, maybe intuitive training, energetic healing. It's amazing the potential here. Um, And maybe augmented reality, which I'm not a fan of, meets altered states that the human can engage on their own. Um, Also spiritual debates, right? I don't think we get away with this one without this one because Uranus will be moving into Gemini right after Jupiter evacuates Gemini for Cancer. And this will be about maybe, looking at where tech ends and the soul begins, and maybe forcing us to define what is sacred as opposed to the technological focus that we have. I would guess maybe some mental health and identity breakthroughs where the old self, we're redefining what does it mean to be a self, redefining selfhood, maybe redefining that in an overstimulated world where things move so fast, where every day is a new drama or trauma. So old models of identity that right now seem to be based on race or gender or profession give way to a more fluid, soul-based self-definition, right? We're not categorizing and putting people in boxes based on skin color or belief systems, right? Expect both breakthroughs and crises around ego and identity and authenticity, both personally, but also as a collective identity. Expect big leaps in therapies, energetic healing, psychedelic assisted integration work, which is using, the psychedelic drugs or mushrooms, things like that, but in a more controlled and purposeful way. And expect the end of spiritual escapism. This is no more hiding in the clouds and in the background of your beliefs. The age of bypassing is over, and Neptune and Aries demands action, even imperfect action. That's okay too, right? Take a step forward. People will crave tangible tools, grounded practices, and spiritual leadership with real world impact, not authoritarian would-be dictator kings. That is so old and passé. And right now, what you're seeing in the world is this last dying gasp of that kind of energy before Neptune takes over here and really changes. So I maybe think there might be fewer gurus out there, more guides who empower others to become their own leaders, to become their own best friends, to become their own wise women and men, right? But of course, there's always going to be the shadow aspects out there as well. And so we need to kind of expect that there's going to be some sort of shadow energy that pops up throughout this whole time as well. And one of those would be about fanaticism in the name of truth, right? Neptune and Aries can blur the line between spiritual confidence and egotistical righteousness. Try that one on, right? That means perhaps the rise of cult leaders or, people that claim to want to take you to the higher planes and they aren't capable of doing that. There is definitely this potential for identity crises, multiple, like mass confusion about who we are as the old systems fall away, the education system, the government system, our healthcare system, and how they dissolve faster than the new ones arise, leaving us in this in between space where we're not there and we're not into the new one yet, right? We're in between. It's called liminal space, right? Liminal space where we're in the in between, and false prophets and hero worship. Caution against putting too much power in the hands of charismatic individuals. The invitation is to ignite your own flame, not follow someone else's fire, right? Ignite your own flame. So, in summary, what the new era asks of us as we go forward is to be spiritually brave, right? Even if you're uncertain, and to create what doesn't exist yet. Be the innovator of your soul's call. Lead with your light, not your logic. Don't wait for permission, right? Neptune and Aries says your truth is sacred. Live it and live it now, not tomorrow. Live it now. All right. Uh, Awesome. I'm just looking at comments here real quickly. Robin says, my Aries is in the fifth house. Joy, creativity, children, fun, play, recreation, vacation, romance, right? Poetry. Christine Buckingham, April 5th is National Hands Off Day, organized peaceful protests across the country. Hands off national parks, healthcare, schools, our vote, etc. Cool. And I expect we'll see more of those kinds of things being organized as time goes on. And the in between, TD Hawk says, is very challenging. And that's the truth right there, right? We're in this in between. And it feels like you know, we're getting ready to be pushed off the diving board, but we're not sure how deep the water is or how hot the fire is that we're pushed into. So it'll be interesting to see how we play with this. Now, I also want to take a look ahead because it's not just Neptune moving into Aries and it's not just solar eclipses happening, in Aries. We now also have looking forward down the line to May 25th when Saturn joins Neptune in the early degrees of Aries. And Saturn and Neptune have a cycle. They have a 36-year cycle of conjunction. And then through the 36 years, you come to the first square, you come to the opposition, you come to the waning square, and then you come back to conjunction. So their 36-year cycle is very much about social and cultural changes and changes in spirituality, but also changes in forms and structures and discipline and boundaries, things like that. And their last conjunction was in 1989 at 11 degrees of Capricorn. And their next conjunction, exact conjunction, is on February 20th of 2026. And yet, throughout the rest of 2025, they come within one half a degree of one another. So if I were looking at your personal chart and I saw a half a degree conjunction between Saturn and Neptune, I would say it's a conjunction, right? But we often look to the day, but remember these planets unfold their energies over time. So it starts here now and or soon with the conjunction to Saturn and unfolds over time. Then we get to the exact conjunction, i.e., February 20th, 2026, and then it starts to wane or it moves forward, taking that energy through to the rest of that 36-year cycle. So if we look back to look forward, right? We look back, the 1989 Neptune Saturn conjunction was in Capricorn and world events. So that's what we do as astrologers. We look back to what are the world events that were occurring at the time of that conjunction or within, the months, days, maybe even a year of that conjunction, because it gives you sort of um, the tenor, if you will, of what will start to happen as time goes on. And the world events around 1989 to 91 were the fall of the Berlin Wall, the collapse of the Soviet Union. Globalization and capitalism surged at that time, Capricornian systems, right? Major shifts in political and economic structures at the time, the rise of the internet era. Remember, this early 90s and late 80s was the time we're just hearing about the internet and the ideal meets the infrastructure required, right? We didn't have the PCs yet, we didn't have the laptops. I mean, they were just starting, right? It was the end of the Cold War of the time. Walls came down, literally and metaphorically. So, the energetic signature of that Saturn Neptune conjunction in that time was about dissolving old, rigid power structures, right? Neptune softens Saturn. It was about idealism grounded in policy, economy, and realism. Neptune, idealism, Saturn, realism. And a new world order began forming from the old constructs falling apart, right? Things shifted in a very big way. Now, if we fast forward, right, fast forward to the 2026, actually, I'm going to even call it 2025 conjunction of these two planets, the theme becomes the birth of a new spiritual identity and an era of sacred action. In 1989, walls fell In 2025 to 2026, souls awaken. Totally different feel, right? So, if we look ahead at maybe the archetypal shifts that we might experience during this period of time, we have Capricorn structures, forms, etc., giving way to Aries. So, we are going from external systems of control to internal sovereignty and self initiation. And think about this, Saturn, like Neptune, and will move into the human design gate 25, which is the gate of spirit. So we'll have Saturn, form and structure, actually honoring universal love and tolerance, compassion, innocence, acceptance, right? And Neptune also there until mid 2026, the transcendent spiritual purification and awakening through love and through presence, the I am presence. All right. So I went on a limb a little bit and talked about, looked up what predictions and collective implications there might be for us. And of course, this is future looking. We don't know for sure. But I would say that we'll find ourselves with some kind of new spiritual infrastructure, movements around maybe conscious leadership and soul centered education and holistic systems that have already been put into birth places, right? Have started already taking off, right? And launching further. The old religious institutions may further decline as embodied spirituality rises. Tech spiritual hybrids, maybe tools for inner work. Right, we see there right now. There's a lot of apps on your phone or on your laptops for meditation and visualizing that kind of thing. We may see the rise of courageous visionaries who take the lead, right? Somebody arising. Aries energy always seems to give rise to trailblazers. And maybe these will be trailblazers of a next soul revolution, if you will. We'll see people forging paths where none existed and often alone at first, right? Moving through the forest themselves and paving the way for others. Authenticity becomes more valuable than credentials, right? That is an important change. It will be the collapse of false identities. We may experience cultural reckonings around identity politics, nationalism, and us versus them thinking. I am ready for that. Collective identities begin to reorganize around frequency and truth, not labels and roles, right? That's getting moved away. Personal impact. You'll be asked to align with what you believe and what you build and embody. What are you building from your truth? This is a chance to build a life around your truth, not your conditioning, right? Human design. We've been working for years and years with human design about deconditioning. And if you've been waiting for a sign to take that leap, this is it. This is your time. This is the day. This is the month. This is the year. This is the part of your lifetime to take that leap. The structures you build from 2025 to 2026 will last for the next few decades. Make sure they reflect who you truly are and not what you think you have to be. So, what new structures, routines, business, creative work are you getting ready to put out, right? Are you getting ready to put in the world as a reflection of your soul's essence? Um, it's time to let go. Now, I also wanted to take a look at something interesting because the question, as I look ahead at all the pro Aries energies, I also saw that in the backdrop we have this rise of sort of this religious nationalism. Um, you know, from the conservative think tank about the 2025, that piece of work that was all about, what should we start to do to turn this country into a Christian nation. And the rise of individuals in power who are very religious oriented and try to imprint their dogmas onto not just, themselves, but onto the nation in general. And I kept looking at that and it's very uncomfortable to watch this happen because our nation was built on religious freedom. And what you're beginning to see is a push to believe one way and not others. So, Pisces, of course, rules religion and spirituality and mysticism and illusion, right? So during this transit of Neptune through Pisces, we've seen a rise in both mystical awakening and spiritual delusion. And it's kind of one of those things where religious extremism has been sort of taking place, not just, here in this country, but I'm thinking more like in Arab countries and the Islamic religion, where they're blending faith with state control, which is a Piscean shadow energy. And it might be the romanticizing of these returning to traditional values. That's the words they say, and it's often used as a political tool, right? But what they really mean is to get in line with whatever it is belief system that we're selling at the moment. So the recent wave, especially here in this country, of Christian nationalism be seen as a Neptune in Pisces final gasp, trying to reclaim power through identity, faith, and fear. So now we have to look at, this idea of reaction versus reality because it's here, it's in our field, right? We're being meant to move to a more spiritual sovereign nature, but we still have this holding on of these old dogmas. And the surge, maybe in fundamentalism, is partly a reaction to the rapid change, right? Holding on tight because so much is changing and we feel unstable, right? We feel insecure. And in the face of gender fluidity, spiritual pluralism, secularism, multiculturalism, people are holding on to that old faith system. And as people lose trust in the old institutions, whether it's government, media, education, they often turn to religion for stability. And in astrological terms, it's Saturn's grip right now on Neptune's dreams, trying to control what should flow and what shouldn't. And we're watching literally in real time a fear based response to a collective awakening. So it feels like we're headed in a direction of more religion or more religious control, or at least more governmental religious sort of control. But in reality, it's not going to be able to last, right? The new reality is that only if we let it be will it happen, right? You become the sovereign here. So, with Saturn and Neptune both moving into Aries, the old story starts to dissolve. But, and this is an important thing, not without a fight, right? Those who are holding on to the old are holding on with tooth and nail. Aries brings the courage and the rise up to question the old rules, the old dogmas. This is where soul led leadership enters into the picture and we begin to stand in our spiritual sovereignty. And the tension of 2025 to 2026 literally will be about, do we build new forms of embodied spiritualism or spirituality, or do we cling to the old dogma and impose it on others? Right? That's kind of the thing that I see sort of happening out there. And expect more clashes or more debates between secular and religious ideologies. The divide may temporarily widen before it actually heals. So there are some things to watch for. Watch for court rulings and laws that are attempting to enforce Christian doctrine. Watch for public debates around religious freedom versus pluralism. And I'm going to talk about pluralism here in just a minute. I had to go look it up because I wasn't sure uh, exactly where I got that word and what it meant. Um, Watch political figures using God language to gain loyalty from people who are in that religion. But also, and this is the important like exclamation point, watch the rise of alternative spiritual voices who embody Christ consciousness, but without the dogma. Watch for new alliances across faith-based lines that are more compassionate, more embodied in love and unconditional love. It's all there and it's all possible. So Neptune in Aries will ask us to reclaim the spiritual path from fear, from control, and from moral superiority, right? You're not better because you're Christian versus being Islamic or one religion over another, right? They're all equal. Watch for the need to lead with direct connection to the divine, your own connection to the divine, rather than needing a middleman. We don't need a middleman. That was the untruth of religion in itself, that we needed an intercessory to get to God. We don't, right? You are God. Um, to watch for more people to act on spiritual truth, not just preach it. And to watch people build more inclusive, love rooted spaces where spirit isn't weaponized. It's not used against you, it's not used as a weapon at all. And it's not that spirituality is leaving, it's being reborn. And the fire of truth will burn away all the false gods, if you will. So, this is the backdrop of where we are and where we're headed. It's not necessarily easy to go through. It's not easy to watch as, things are changing in that way. So watch for things like using religion to justify control. Watch for imposing one belief system onto the laws or the bodies and the rights of others, right? Women, we know this one. Watch for framing of one group, usually white conservative Christians, as the true Americans versus, or true whatever country, versus the mixture of all the people of various natures, races, colors that are in your world. And for the moment, it seems that this ideology is gaining traction in court decisions, in school boards and political platforms, and public rhetoric. It's the shadow expression of Neptune in those final degrees of Pisces and Saturn's need to control uncertainty. Still, he's in Pisces, right? He has not yet moved over to Aries. And it's being activated as we near the 2025-2026 Saturn-Neptune conjunction. All right. So pluralism, what does that mean? This is a great word, and I had to go to the American Heritage Dictionary, and I found that it is the belief that multiple perspectives, spiritual, cultural, ethnic, philosophical, can coexist peacefully and hold equal value in a shared society. It's not about blending everything into sameness. It's about respecting spiritual diversity and creating spaces of inclusion, of grace and authenticity. And whether it's a circle or a business or a kitchen table, right? We have this ability to build a world that reflects everybody's points of view. And again, this is not the end of faith. This is not the end of spirituality or, the death knell of a belief in a higher power. It's the beginning of a deeper, freer, more embodied spirituality. So, let your presence be what guides you. Let your courage be the prayer, and let your love be the revolution that everyone is experiencing. It's all up to you, right? It's all up to us. Nothing is written in stone, not yet anyway. And, things every time we go through these major changes, there is this feeling of holding on so tightly to the old that you're not ready yet to embody the new. And it does engender a little bit of fear, a little bit of uncertainty that can feel like, oh my God, I've got to hold on tighter. And in reality, As we talked about earlier in the broadcast, it's about surrender, letting go, releasing, right? All right. Let's see. I'm going to go back here. Um, ba, ba, ba. Conjunction junction. What's your function? I remember that when I was a kid. Okay. I saw Christine says, I saw David Johansen do the limbo and perform in St. Thomas many moons ago. That maybe that's in response to something else. Um, Christine Buckingham said, or no, this is Tom saying, I saw New York Dolls too, not in St. Thomas though. Okay, so you guys are having a conversation that I lost here. And Robin, I am being invited. Projector here. There you go. And Christine, it's doubtful those in power would embrace and accept the actual Jesus. Fanaticism is always dangerous. Absolutely. And Christine says, say no to Handmaid's Tale theocracy. Absolutely. It's a scary thought, isn't it? I almost couldn't even, some episodes I just couldn't watch. It was terrible. And TD Hawk, pluralism, walk in beauty. And anyway, lots of good stuff there. All right. So let's pull a card or two. Um, hmm, so many to choose from nowadays. I think, though, I want to go to um, healing the inner child because I think all of us may be getting a little triggered by the experiences of our inner child. And let's see. We haven't used this deck very often. I belong to this Oracle card club through Hay House. So I get, ooh, that one wants to come out. And that's great. It's acceptance, right? Card number 10, acceptance. Perfect for what we've been talking about. And let's see here. The invitation for those of you who are projectors or have open throat centers. When we accept what was, what is, and what is to be, we are truly at peace. It is only through surrender to love that we find a lasting connection with our unchanging essence, our higher self or soul, the part of us that is always blissful and trusting. Because it dwells beyond the pain and trauma of life, this self knows that love is not something you feel, it is who you are. This card invites you to step into the possibility that acceptance is the doorway to love. We can only truly love ourselves or another when we accept ourselves. When we reject someone or something, we exclude this aspect of ourselves and become more impoverished. When we accept what was, we say yes to life as it is and we integrate the past experience into our being. We gain strength and vitality through acceptance. And the inner child. Take a moment and be with your younger self. Notice the age, emotional state, and appearance of your inner child. Offer them the reassurance of your loving presence and welcome any and all sensations expansion, softness, constriction, tingling, numbness, tension. Just notice and breathe. Our bodies hold the cellular memory of what has happened to us since our conception. They also hold infinite wisdom for us to tap into. Be present with the sensations as they arise and allow them to expand, to flow within you and through you. By offering acceptance to each sensation and emotion we experience, we do what most of our parents were not able to do for us. We accept ourselves. Gaze into the eyes of your younger self and tell them, I accept and love you exactly as you are. You belong. And here's the journey. This card invites you to soften tension by embracing expansion. Imagine yourself by the ocean, a lake, a stream, or a waterfall. Immerse yourself in the waters. Look around. Notice the temperature of the air, the sounds you hear, and the sensation of the water on your skin. Allow the water to soothe any tension or worry from your body and your mind. Allow your body to be held by the stillness of a lake or the liveliness of the ocean, looking up at the stars in the night sky. Feel the water accepting you as you are, as you release judgment, fear, tension, and stress, and receive calm, compassion, courage, and confidence. I don't think I could have chosen a better card for where we are and where we're going. All right, acceptance it is. Thank you guys for joining me this morning and letting me go off on my little soap opera or soapbox preaching. I hope you all have a blessed weekend. I will see you on Monday. It's going to be a great weekend. Bye for now.